The other day, I was going through my collection, kind of rearranging some things in the old gaming closet and doing some inventory, as I typically do about once a year. And I was pretty happy to know that certain games that I purchased a while ago have begun to really accrue in value. And these are games that I purchased with the intent that they would one day be worth something significant over what I paid for them. Now, I know it's perhaps not a popular opinion to have that, gaming should be about gaming, it shouldn't be about profiting. But I think in any kind of collecting endeavor, you ultimately collect because you think that the item is special and that people will be interested in it, and that ultimately, over time, you will have somewhat of an asset. So this was particularly evident in my PSP collection, 3DS, PS4, Vita, consoles that maybe about a decade ago I was actively collecting for and really looking for the games that I thought would be unique and that would be worth something. And shockingly, it's a decade later, and I've had some really good bets and I've had some big misses. So I wanted to kind of go through them here today and give you five in each category and talk about the games and what I was thinking buying them and why they would fall into these categories. So I want to go over some criteria that I use when purchasing games, and particularly purchasing games that I think have some potential to grow in value over the years. And it's kind of a personal process. I'm not saying that this is exhaustive or definitive, but it's just what I do. And for me, I first I look at genre, particularly genres that I personally enjoy. And for me, there are RPGs, arcade compilations, action games, some platformers in there, and sports games. And of course, sports games don't really become very valuable, but a couple do, and I enjoy sports games. So one of the litmus tests that I asked myself, and I was talking about this on the Shin Megami Talks channel last weekend, is that I asked myself, would I want to play this game in retirement? And if the answer is yes, I pick it up. I always look for the $20 price point as well. Over the years, whether I was purchasing to collect or purchasing to play, to me, the $20 price point was absolutely critical. I think that is, at least for me, the price where I can take a shot on a game and see if I like it. Or when I notice a game in one of these genres and I think, you know what, for $20 I can pick this up and go with it. So I always look for that. That's not to say that everything that I'm going to show you today was $20. Some were a little bit more. But I also look to see if the game is an interesting launch title. I do like picking out those launch titles that I think will, in 10, 20 years, you'll kind of look back and you'll say, oh, that was really central to that system. That may be a flaw, as you will see, but it's just one thing that I've always looked at. I look for interesting art styles, an interesting premise, or an interesting control scheme, because I think people generally kind of go back to that and say, oh, that game was trying to do something different, even if it didn't succeed. And then personally, I like platform mismatches. This is a more recent thing, but I look to see if a game just doesn't feel at home on a console or a particular console. So I've talked about this before. My main example of that is I like digital only games, or the games that were previously digital only and that have a console release, or games that are more at home on the PC or the smartphone that get a console release. And they haven't always been great for me, but I do think maybe in years to come, people will say something like, oh, Angry Birds. I remember playing that on my phone. Is there a physical object, a physical version of Angry Birds? And I ultimately look nowadays, anyway, at digital availability. Is this game on Steam? Is this game available cheaply online? Because then it allows me to preserve the game in sealed format, and I look at it as, if I pick something up for the Switch or the PS4, and there's a Steam sale and I can get the game for $10, I just kind of build that into the cost of the purchase, and then I can kind of maximize that value down the road by saying, hey, this game is sealed. So I'm gonna start with my best bets, and this is in no particular order. I just picked out five that I thought really represented this strategy and the success of this strategy. So the first one is Pokemon Quest for the Nintendo DS. When this game came out, I was looking at it. I was like, wait, this is a Pokemon game, and then one of those Warring States Japan period strategy games where you sort of combine. You play as Nobunaga with Pokemon. At the time, I hadn't even really played a Pokemon game at any length, but I just said this is unique. This is a unique blending of genres. It's a unique premise, and I had no intent to play it, and I still have not played it. But it looks interesting. I can't play it digitally, but to me, it's just one of those games that came out of nowhere and just caught my attention. I paid $50 for it, and according to the Game Eye app, which aggregates pricing data from, I think, eBay, price charting, Amazon, a couple of other places, it is currently listed in sealed condition at $188. Persona Q Shadow of the Labyrinth Wildcard Edition. I bought this during a time when I was just really going after a lot of Shin Megami Tensei games just because I liked Persona 3 and Persona 4, and I just wanted to try out others. And so I don't typically buy special editions because I think they take up too much space, but I picked this up for about $40 and, with the intent of playing it. And then I read up about it, and it was more of like one of those Etrian Odyssey type games where, I don't know if you had to draw your own map, but it was, very difficult and it sounded tedious. So I just kind of put it towards the back of my Shin Megami Tensei list, picked it up for $40. It's now worth $150. Next up is Shin Megami Tensei Devil Summoner 2, the Raiho Special Edition with the Jack Frost plushie figure. I got this for $40. I found it on eBay. I'm not really showing you a picture of it here because it is somewhere in the far sort of back of the closet, and I just didn't feel like taking everything out again to get to it because this idea came to me after I had put everything back in the closet. And I bought this thinking to myself, this is something that is people will want. This is just a cool item, and I think it will go up in value. And it took a long time. I got it for $40 shipped, and it's now at $200. Godzilla on the PlayStation 4. I have to credit the Pete Dorr Twitch channel for this one. I just happened to be watching one night, and he was playing Godzilla, and I was looking at it, I was like, oh, that's interesting. I kind of remember the Godzilla movies growing up. I think it was around the time that Godzilla remake was released, in 2015, 2016. And Pete said, hey, this could be one of those games that goes up in value, and it just kind of registered. And I think a couple weeks later, I saw it for $20 on Amazon, so I figured, give it a shot. And it's now $230. And it was interesting, during the pandemic, I want to say it was up in the $350 range, or maybe even pushing $400. So it was definitely a good recommendation. Not sure if it's a good game. I think it was kind of trashed, and then the license was pulled at some point, which makes it valuable. Then we have Ys Chronicles 1 and 2. And I picked this up on the PSP for $20. It's now worth $174. I actually also had the special edition of this, which I also got for, I think, in the $20 to $30 range, but then sold for some reason. I was like, well, I have two. It's taking up space. Now this one again is at $174, and it's a good game. This is one of the games that I played. It's a game that I picked up on Steam, and it's just fun to go back and play Ys in a sort of upscaled format. So I feel like this is the one where I got the best of both worlds. Have the collectible version and played through it on the PC. And I'm going to do an honorable mention as far as platform mismatches. And this is Fortnite on the Xbox One. Now, this one is not sealed, but I was looking around for lots, actually, of Call of Duty games for whatever reason, maybe a year, 2 years ago now. I just felt like playing some Call of Duty games on the Xbox Series X because I know if you stored it on the hard drive, it would upres and it was a better experience, so on and so forth. So I found a lot, and I was like, oh, this lot's a little expensive for Call of Duty. I forget how many games there were in there. There were some other things that I had, but then I was like, oh, this has Fortnite. And interesting platform mismatch. So I picked it up, and I think by the time I got it, and then I wound up selling off some of the games I didn't want, I paid $3 a game. And so for $3, I got this game, and I was shocked when I sort of scanned it into the GameEye app. It came up as being worth $350 in complete condition. And I'm putting this here as an honorable mention because I almost don't believe it when I look at it online. It seems like the picture has this sticker on the cover, which this doesn't. And it's for some Storm Tracker, Storm Master pack. I think it's a kind of DLC. But then the code for that DLC is in the box, and the UPC code matches with that. So I almost can't believe that this is worth $350, and I thought, well, I'll just put it in the video, see if someone actually knows. But if so, this would be an example of a platform mismatch because I think ultimately Fortnite is a free-to-play game. It's a PC game. It's a game people were playing on their phones way back when. But this apparently, if this is the one that I think it is or that it might be, it's a desirable physical edition. All right, now I'm going to go to my biggest misses with this strategy, and the first would be Man World on the Wii. I don't think this was exactly a launch title, but it was one of those games that seemed very unique for the Wii. It was bloody. It had this kind of comic book or manga vibe where it was black and white, but then you have these splashes of blood. It utilized the Wiimote control scheme back when that was considered innovative. And I just felt that this was a unique game. This was a game that was going to be one of the games that was remembered on the Wii. And I think to a certain degree it is, but for whatever reason, the game just has not increased in value. Copy sealed. I picked it up for $20. It is currently worth $24. I'm not sure if it was released for another platform, but yeah, it never really panned out. Zombie U on the Wii U was another one of those games. When it was released, I think it was a unique title. It was a property, unique IP from Ubisoft before we knew that they were an evil corporation that treats people like garbage and fleeces their players in every possible way. Back then, it was just Ubisoft, and hey, a zombie game, a survival horror game, had a unique use of the Wii U gamepad, and I never actually played it, and I'm not a big horror fan, although I've kind of come around in certain circumstances. But I just thought, I think I got this for $20 on like a Black Friday a couple of years after it came out. I thought it was a good bet. But it was subsequently released, I believe it's on Steam. It may have come out on PlayStation 4. And so it's not a unique launch title anymore. And currently, for my $20, well, this is now worth $13. Next game is R-Type Command. I thought I couldn't go wrong with this. It's R-Type. It's a shmup, although this is not really a shmup. It's more of a strategy RPG kind of tactical war game. But I thought that was an interesting, again, it's a premise, a fusion of genres. To have a game in the R-Type world with shmup-style cutscenes, but yet it was kind of it's a strategy, hex strategy type game. I thought this couldn't miss, but I picked it up for $20, and it's now $26. It had a bit of a spike during the pandemic, but nothing significant, and it's just kind of held steady. Next up is Steel Diver on the 3DS. So I love the 3DS. I've talked about it here on the channel. It's one of my favorite consoles of all time, perhaps my favorite handheld of all time. And a while back, I was just trying to get some of those early releases, and I thought Steel Diver was interesting. This is a Nintendo release. I believe Miyamoto actually worked on this game, at least as one of the co-developers. It was one of the I don't know if it was one of the first, but it was one of the games that really tried to make use of the 3DS, the dual screen, in the stylus in interesting ways. And I've thought that this is one of those quirky Nintendo titles that at some point would be seen as one of those games that people wanted to get when they try to collect for that initial wave of 3DS games, but it is just worthless. I picked it up for 20, and now it is worth 8. And again, this is in sealed condition, so obviously I haven't played it. I don't know why it's not particularly popular, but again, even when I was reviewing what it was now, it seems interesting. I almost for 8 want to get another copy and actually play it. And lastly on my worst bets list, Shin Megami Tensei 4. Now, this is a beloved game, and I discovered this game. I've talked about it before. I was in grad school. I hadn't really... I kind of fell away from JRPGs for a while. I picked up Persona 3, played it, loved it, and this had come out shortly after I got Persona 3, and had to buy it, day one. Played it. I didn't quite finish this one, but I was playing it. I was really enjoying it, and I said, you know what? This game's going to be valuable. This is a masterpiece. I want to buy another copy and keep it sealed. So I paid, I want to say, another $30 for it, and it's currently worth $30. And this one, I don't particularly understand. I mean, I think this game, obviously Persona Golden was a better game, but there's so much love for this game. Wouldn't people want the original in sealed condition? But it's just not the case. It's just, has never really shot up at any point. And this one even has the soundtrack in it, which, great soundtrack. But, yeah, just apparently not desirable. So there you go. There are some of my best bets and biggest misses over the years in collecting. And I think this is what makes collecting fun. See if your assessment of the game really pans out over time, or if you were mistaken. And even if games aren't valuable, they're still fun. So I don't regret having these in my collection. So I'll put the question out to you. What were your best bets and biggest misses in gaming?